It's time for Debrief, TRT World's wrap-up of the top stories from last week.
We're on board TGC.
One-word answer.
Don't put me on the spot, the panic.
Well, yeah, and many say that just because.
It's the first time the Russian president has stepped on US soil since 2015, and it's the first time since 2019 Trump and Putin have met.
I believe we had a very productive meeting. There were many points that we agreed on, most of them, I would say, a couple of big ones that we haven't quite gotten there, but we've made some headway.
We were expecting, something at least to come out of this meeting. President Trump had said before he left that, he would be very unhappy if at least a ceasefire wasn't agreed to. And then when we learned that this meeting had wrapped up hours before we were told it was going to, people were taking that as a positive sign that things had been possibly agreed and that we were going to get some sort of clarity moving forward. And now it seems to be just as much confusion as ever.
There's no deal until there's a deal.
The literal red carpet rolled out, big smiles all round from both men.
Given that war is going on in Ukraine, given that Putin is an indicted war criminal, I found that greeting a little bit too warm.
It's a victory for Putin. The fact it's here, it's close to Russia, it's not far from him to come, and it's a long way from Europe.
This is a venue that is so far away from Europe.
The United States cares less about Ukraine than Europe does. So ultimately, Zelensky might not be there, but the deal is only going to fly if Zelensky approves it.
We are separated only by the Bering Strait. Even there are 2 islands between the Russian and American sides, totaling just 4 kilometers. We are close neighbors, that's a fact.
They're also close neighbors with Ukraine, and they share a common history, so I don't know how it resonated with the US side, but what he went on and said as Ukraine is our brotherly nation did not really resonate well here in Ukraine.
Putin is definitely not preparing for a ceasefire or an end to the war. Putin is determined only to present a meeting with America as his personal victory and then continue acting exactly as before.
This has been a great victory for Vladimir Putin. He's been welcomed back into the international community effectively after 3.5 years nearly of isolation.
We will always remember other historical examples when our countries together defeated common enemies in the spirit of comradeship and alliance. We helped and supported each other.
This was all standard Kremlin rhetoric when they want to butter up the Americans and avoid a problem by talking about US-Russian cooperation. The next step is to talk about together solving the world's problems, usually at somebody else's expense.
There's no security guarantees that this wouldn't just happen again. Even if there is some type of peace plan in place, what's to stop Russia from doing this again?
Thank you very much, Vladimir.
Next time in Moscow.
Oh, that's an interesting one. I don't know. I'll get a little heat on that one, but I could see it possibly happening.
As more people die from malnourishment across Gaza, Israel denies that people in the enclave are starving.
Does anyone look starving there? I saw very well-fed people who were marching there in the street.
22 months in, and Gaza ceasefire talks have so far failed to end the cycle of death and destruction facing Palestinians. Heavy fire from Israeli forces has been reported in 4 neighborhoods of Gaza City, flattening what remains of the infrastructure. Residents of Gaza City now await their permanent expulsion.
The AP Associated Press confirmed yesterday that they had sources telling them that the Israelis are talking to officials in South Sudan about this plan. It's not clear if they would accept, and Palestinians have categorically rejected any plans to push them out, and forcible transfer here is a war crime under international law.
Israel's finance minister has approved a new plan for the expansion of illegal settlements that would effectively divide the occupied West Bank in 2.
Thousands of new illegal apartments for settlers in the occupied West Bank, specifically in the Ma'ale Adumim settlement, as part of the E1 project that will cut the West Bank in half and make it impossible to build an independent Palestinian state.
This reality definitively buries the idea of a Palestinian state simply because there is nothing to recognize and no one to recognize.
It's a statement that came 1 week after Australian officials made this plea.
The best way to ensure peace and stability in the Middle East is for there to be two states. And the reason for urgency behind recognition is this: there is a risk that there will be no Palestine left to recognise if the world does not act.
And here's another serving of top stories with our news in brief. On Tuesday, Prime Minister Anthony Albanese confirmed that Australia will join Canada, France, and the UK in formally recognizing the State of Palestine next month, before the UN General Assembly.
A two-state solution is humanity's best hope to break the cycle of violence in the Middle East and to bring an end to the conflict, suffering, and starvation in Gaza.
Albanese also said the decision, condemned by Israel, is based on commitments from the Palestinian Authority, including demilitarization of the occupied West Bank and barring Hamas from leadership. Rights groups call it political cover for the country's key role in an F-35 fighter program that maintains the jets Israel uses to bomb Gaza, a role many citizens see as complicit in what human rights experts say are war crimes committed by Israel. Millions of Australians have taken to the streets in protest, calling for sanctions on Tel Aviv. On Wednesday, thousands of ultra-Orthodox Israelis protested after the government started issuing call-up notices to religious students for the first time in history. A June decision by the Supreme Court ended their exemption from the military service required for most citizens and barred financial aid to religious institutions whose students refused to enlist. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu already has popularity problems. An ultra-Orthodox party pullout could put his fragile far-right coalition in trouble and could trigger early elections. On Monday, U.S. President Trump used a 1973 law to declare what the White House calls a crime emergency, bringing the Washington, D.C. Police Department under direct federal government control for up to 30 days. That's despite the latest U.S. Department of Justice figures reporting sharp drops in crime in the Capitol.
I'm announcing a historic action to rescue our nation's capital from crime, bloodshed, bedlam, and squalor, and worse.
He's also deployed 800 National Guard troops there. Trump is the first U.S. president to take over the city's police force.
Mayor Muriel Bowser, who has pushed back very hard on this, saying that if, in fact, there is this federal law enforcement on the streets of Washington, D.C., it will be not because of a spike in crime. It will be a show of force strictly by this president who is targeting Democratic-run cities.
The law is supposed to grant emergency powers to the government if special conditions of an emergency nature exist. But his announcement came after a 19-year-old former federal employee was assaulted during an attempted carjacking. Critics are calling it overreach and a misuse of federal authority. South Korea's former president Yoon Suk-yeol isn't the only one in detention facing criminal charges. His wife, former First Lady Kim Kyun-hee, has been arrested in connection to several suspected crimes, including bribery, stock manipulation, and meddling in elections. Last year, Yoon attempted to declare martial law as he accused the opposition of blocking his agenda. The move prompted his downfall after more than 100,000 citizens surrounded parliament in protest. That's also when concerns swirled around whether or not he did it to divert attention away from suspicions around his wife's activities, accusations which include profiting in the hundreds of thousands of dollars from a stock price rigging scheme and accepting 2 Chanel bags and a diamond necklace in return for favors. And don't forget our programs, Africa Matters, Money Talks, and Beyond the Game.
The civil war in Sudan is now in its 3rd year, and as fighting intensifies between the Sudanese armed forces and the paramilitary rapid support forces, cholera is spreading fast. Medical supplies remain scarce, and aid agencies are struggling to reach the sick. Since April 2023, when the war broke out, Tens of thousands of people have been killed and millions have been uprooted from their homes. The United Nations calls it the world's largest displacement crisis. An attack in May on the Zamzam camp in North Darfur, Sudan's largest displacement camp, saw thousands of refugees trek approximately 70 kilometers to the town of Tawila. But here they face a different kind of challenge.
We don't have anything. We don't have any services, not even toilets. We need to have toilets as our children defecate in the open. There is no medicine and the children are sick. We have nothing, no sheets, no mattresses, no furniture, absolutely nothing.
Every passing moment for refugees in displacement camps in North Darfur is overshadowed by fear and uncertainty as cholera cases surge. Cuts to foreign aid funding have hindered the response in Darfur, forcing patients to rely on traditional methods to treat cholera. Only 10% of refugees in the camps have reliable access to clean water and sanitation, and that's accelerating transmission according to the Norwegian Refugee Council.
So since the outbreak in August 2024, UNICEF data shows more than 94,000 cholera cases, with about 2,400 deaths have been reported across all Sudan states except for central Darfur. In North Darfur, where most displacement camps are, more than 640,000 children under 5 are at risk, as many of them suffer from severe acute malnutrition.
Now, the gaming world has descended on the Saudi capital, Riyadh, for the highly lucrative second annual Esports World Cup.
Messi didn't need the extra pass. Nuno Mendes, oh, it's perfect.
Video games are no longer considered a niche for the geeks, the nerds of the world. For the past few years, gaming has burst out of the bedroom and onto the world stage. It's at the very forefront of modern entertainment, and that's reflected in the sheer scale. It comfortably eclipses both film and music, combined with a market size at almost $300 billion. Esports, and specifically the Esports World Cup, is the ultimate proving ground for gamers, professional or not, and the 2025 edition is the biggest yet. Okay, so for starters, more than 2,000 athletes are competing from more than 100 countries. They'll be playing in 25 esports, so that's 25 different games, but in 26 individual competitions. The total purse, which is the big headline of this whole mega event, is $71.5 million. 32 of the world's best virtual football players battled for glory in Riyadh, with 20-year-old Dutch gamer Manuel Bashouri taking home the $250,000 prize.
I think you can compare, like in my case, like an EAFC player to all the 1v1 sports, so tennis, darts, whatever you can name, because it's very mental.